Back with us on the Sportsman Zone, Theodore Tappa Whitmore has been sacked as head coach of the Reggae Boyz after presiding over a dismal run of results in CONCACAF World Cup qualifying action. Whitmore, who has won more games than any other Reggae Boyz head coach, was notified early today that his tenure had been cut short. The 49-year-old leaves the Reggae Boyz in 6th place in the 8-team hexagonal qualifying round with just 6 matches remaining. We did make repeated attempts to reach the JFF hierarchy. We've tried to call JFF President Michael Ricketts. We've spoken to him off air, but couldn't tie down a commitment to appear on the show. And we also couldn't tie down the General Secretary, Dalton Wint. So those efforts proving futile. But the story that has been confirmed is that Whitmore is out, and some media outlets are reporting that his former assistant, Paul Hall, has been elevated to the post of interim head coach. So it looks likely from here as if Paul Hall will manage the remainder of the World Cup qualifying campaign. And it's on that note that I turn to the panel for your perspective on what has happened today with Whitmore and, of course, the interim management role that Paul Hall will have to play from here on in.
Well, 6th on the table, 7 points from 8 games. I mean, the statistics, George and Lance, they speak for themselves. We also know how frustrated it must be for the fans of the Reggae Boyz who have repeatedly looked at the Reggae Boyz and seen there were glimmers of hope, and then we would do well and step right back. Then we would also have to think about the players who felt that, you know, they were coming to some sort of chemistry, they were gelling and all these different things. And I think this decision of Tappa being fired has 2 sides to it. The fans and, of course, the administration just wanting immediate results, along with the players, because the players would want results. But then those close to Tappa who feel as if he was given some unfair circumstances to work with, and we just think about the fact that international players coming in, some of them not being available because of COVID-19 restrictions and all these different things. So for me, there are 2 ways to look at it. Either way, everybody just wants results, and I'm hoping that whoever steps into that position, and that will be the key thing, because for me, it's the timing, right? Are you going to expect now that whoever steps into that position can work some magic around this squad and do what seemed as if it couldn't be done under Tappa?
You know, I'm interested in the procedural platform, because the decision by the technical committee that, or the recommendation from the technical committee that Whitmore should have been replaced happened several weeks ago. And I think it was reasonable to expect that the next step from there would have happened more quickly than it has. So I'm not too sure what has taken so long for them to make that decision, given the fact that, given our investigations, the technical committee did recommend that Whitmore be sacked. Having said that, it obviously was an issue as to who would replace him, because the fact is the JFF is cash-strapped, and getting top-flight coaches to coach teams at this level, you've got to have money to pay them. So that could be one of the reasons why they were, you know, hamstrung as to finding a replacement for Whitmore, because it seems to me that they were heading in this direction for some time now, and the decision only came today, or the decision announced only today.
Whitmore is unfortunate, but perhaps it is that the right decision has been made. We are here on this show as standing by Whitmore up to this point.
Yes.
That's on record. We've said time and again that we believe that he should continue. But that was, for personally speaking, that was largely out of sentiment and an examination of the man's record, which suggested that he had the wherewithal to lift this team to higher levels of performance and to get better results. The JFF has pulled the trigger. Are they right to do so? The circumstances, the reality dictates yes. Because guess what? When you look at this qualifying table, from Canada in 1st position down to Honduras in 8th place, the Reggae Boyz are the only big, well, I don't want to say big name. On strength of squad, the Reggae Boyz are the only nation in this hexagonal group that has underperformed so far. The only one. Costa Rica's best players are old. Brian Ruiz, the Premier League standout for Fulham, is way past his best.
Yeah.
Joel Campbell never came to hand at Arsenal and has made his living elsewhere. The fact is that those two apart, there aren't many players in the Costa Rican team that you'd say, well, are top players. These are players that people pay to go and watch. These are players that good, ambitious clubs want. So rest that to bed. The usual suspects, Canada has performed up to expectation. The Americans have been hot and cold, but they have their destiny in their own hands. They are comfortable. The Mexicans, we know that for a couple of cycles now the Mexicans have been poor, but they also are in charge of their own destiny. Panama have surprised many people, not us, because we know the strength of Panamanian football. The Costa Ricans have flattered to deceive somewhat, but the biggest flops, if you can call it that, of all these 8 teams, the Jamaicans. On that basis, the JFF is right. Lance mentioned procedurally what happened. It would appear to me as if to go to Paul Hall as interim manager was not the preferred course of action. So this time, between when we heard the rumors strongly suggesting that the technical committee had replaced and suggested that Whitmore be replaced and recommended that Whitmore be replaced, that from then till now, there was a debate about where to go for a new head coach.
Exactly.
You couldn't bring in Johnny Foreigner at this time because there's almost no time left to repair the damage that has been done to the qualifying campaign so far. But I'm sure many people would say, well, we need somebody with international experience. Okay, who is available? I mean, I'm sure they looked at options. So I think that they have resigned to Paul Hall as interim head coach, given his familiarity with the setup because he's been a part of it, and of course his relationship with Jamaican football through his successful participation in the France 98 campaign. So I don't think he was their first of choice option, and the length of time would support that theory. But all in all, Theodore Whitmore is an honourable man. I think he's a very good coach. I think he's been very unlucky, but the water of the Reggae Boyz qualifying campaign has gone stagnant in his hands.
Yes. Yeah, but
the pumpkin has died on the vine, the JFF, I believe. You can't criticize them for making the decision because the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, that's true, George, because of the 8 games, they've just won 1 game. And George made the very good point that based on quality of squad, this Jamaica team deserves to be higher in the standings than they currently are. They are currently ranked 5th in CONCACAF. They are 6th in the qualifying table. They have reached 2 Gold Cup finals in the last 4 cycles of Gold Cup football, which tells you that they are a leading team in CONCACAF. And to be so far off the pace in the most important phase of any national team's performance, the World Cup qualifying, is unacceptable. And Whitmore's tenure as coach, I guess, became untenable because of that.
Yeah.
But I remember when we had Michael Ricketts on the show some weeks ago, and he painted a picture that the current coaching staff had been given every single tool possible to perform. From his perspective, I understand what he's saying, but to balance the books a bit, George and Mariah, there have also been some issues that would have taken away Whitmore's strength in preparing a proper squad. We remember the fee issue where players were complaining and threatening and so on. And as far as I gather, Whitmore had a key role to play in getting things together. So there were downsides to the program that Ricketts didn't talk about when he mentioned how flourishing the JFF had been to giving Whitmore everything he needed.
My only issue with this, George and Lance, is the fact that Paul Hall was also a part of the Tappa setup and system, right? So is it that we're going to just expect this entire newly revamped Reggae Boyz that will start winning matches and looking as if they're ready to compete? Because I get the sense that if you're making a change, and don't get me wrong, I totally understand that the JFF, they have no money, but aren't you supposed to get rid of every one of them that belong to the coaching staff?
That's a good point to raise. I'd answer it this way. Perhaps that's why, as I said, the deliberations over announcing Whitmore's replacement and announcing Hall's elevation to the position of interim head coach, that's why it took so long, because these were some of the point that Mariah made would have been one of the points raised. But at the end of the day, look, as an assistant coach, your job is to make recommendations. As a head coach, your job is to make decisions. There's a chasm between making decisions and making suggestions. You can always suggest, coach, I think we should do this. The coach decides. So a man who is elevated to the status of head coach from a position of assistant head coach, now finds himself with power and authority that he never had. So that's what I would say to that Paul Hall's position is not colored by failure or colored by the fact that he was a part of the campaign. And remember, he came in at a certain point. Yeah, he's not been with the national program for a long time, so he's relatively new to the situation. So I think that now that he has decision-making authority, he now calls the shots rather than recommending how the shots be called. It's a huge difference. All in all, Theodore Whitmore, boy, Whitmore's achievements as a footballer are legendary. Club football, international football, and he gets a lot of goodwill for that. But also Whitmore, the coach, the man is not chopped liver, and a lot of disrespectful things have been said about him. And I shiver when I hear how some people talk about Theodore Whitmore. He doesn't deserve that.
Yeah, but that's emotion, yeah? George. When fans are disappointed, they look for scapegoats, and they become very stinging in their attacks. Because I agree with you. When I hear people talk about Whitmore, it's almost as if this man has no clue about football.
I'm not talking about the callers to the program. I can accept that. I'm talking about knowledgeable football people who we would regard as knowing about the game. I don't know about the game. Yeah. The way they speak about the man, you would think that he was some imposter. But the fact is, as much as we love Whitmore, and I'd have loved to have seen him continue
and do well,
the JFF's decision cannot be criticized. Yeah. Not no. The numbers don't lie.
But I also feel like Paul Hall now has been put in a very iffy, if I'm to say so, position, because to give him the role now and expect him, and I can't even think that the JFF would expect this man to just get them off to a winning start.
But they do. And remember, they do, Mariah. And remember, he accepted the job. That's the thing. So he knows what the challenge is. Yes. The challenge, the JFF have not said, Paul, come and see this through to the end. They've said, Paul, come and qualify us for the World Cup.
I wonder how willing he was to take this job, though.
That may have been another reason why it protracted the announcement. That also may be it. Which again supports the theory he wasn't first choice. I don't think. Yeah.
All right, well, team, as we head to the break, we'll continue to relive some of the top sporting moments in 2021. Each day during the Sports Max Zone, leading up to Boxing Day, we'll present a moment of brilliance. Be sure to tune in on Monday, December 27, when we'll have a review of the high points from the year that was. Here's a look at a moment number 4, Trinidadian Nicholas Paul winning silver at the Cycling World Track Championships.
There's never been a rider from the Caribbean on the podium of the kilo before. And Trinidadian world champions, just not in this event. Nicholas Paul, one of the top sprinters in the world. This morning qualifying, he set a 59.269. Oh, and he's already quite a bit faster than Eilers on the first lap. And there he is flying, almost half a second up after lap 1. Question now is, can he hold it? He's on one tonight, look at this, 0.562. We're seeing something truly special here. Paul is flying. His coach knows it as well. A lap and a half to hang on now, 625 metre time. 6/10 up, he's going quicker than a minute in stands. Nicholas Paul gets the bell. He has the speed. Can he hold it? Loses about 1/10 of a second there in that last half a lap. Let's see if he can hang on to it here. He's going with half a second of a lead into the last 500 parts. Well, 100 metres to go now. Nicholas Paul going to the line. He has the lead. 2/10 quicker. 2/10 quicker. Nicholas Paul guaranteed a silver. Trinidad and Tobago on the kilo map.